And welcome back to another episode of JP and the Beanstalk.
You bet. The energy is terrific in the gym. My dear sweet beans, we are fresh off of, I think what we can now finally agree on is the movie of the summer.
Movie of Phase 5? Are we in Phase 5?
Ooh, yes.
I lost track of phases. Are we in Phase 4 or Phase 5?
Let's say we're in Phase 5.
It's going to be in Phase 5, right?
Let's hope so.
I'm actually dead serious. Do you know?
No, I don't know. And what's a little humorous is that Marvel has been a lot less proud in terms of talking about what phase we're in, because I don't think things have gone super according to plan. But hey, you know what did go to plan? We got to see Deadpool and Wolverine. It was glorious.
It was beautiful. It was a masterpiece.
It was a great experience. We're just spotting merch down all over the place on account of our joy. It's overflowing. So now it flows from our goblets and our popcorn buckets.
I'm so excited.
But what a great time. Thank you again to friend of the pod, Eric, for securing the tickets at a large IMAX theater.
This is true. Eric gets all credit.
All the credit.
All the credit.
Couldn't have picked a better spot. Absolutely glorious. So off of that high, which is great. And hey, we're also coming off of a week where the good old SDCC, the San Diego Comic Con, took place. A little bit of news that came from that I'm sure we'll get into. So there are just a slew of topics for us to touch on, and we will strive valiantly to get through all of them for this pod for you, the fine listener. So without further ado or dilly-dally, because my gosh, is there a lot to get to, Riles. Deadpool
Let me down the bone.
Oh my gosh.
And that opening sequence displays no meat on said bone. Anyways.
None of the meat. So let me do what we've been doing during our X-Men rewatch. We'll set a little context. We'll cover our bases, and then we're going to get real deep into it. All right? So Deadpool Wolverine, directed by dear sweet Sean Levy, which, if you look at Sean's filmography, it's full of fun movies. None of these are award-winning bangers, right? So he's not friends with the Academy, but who gives a flying flip? The guy knows the kind of movies that he likes to make and makes them. And there's something to be said for that.
Honestly, if you're making movies for the Academy, I probably don't want to talk to you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You should be making movies because you enjoy what you're making. Right? And this guy...
It happened to take place, that's fine. But
exactly.
That's not what Sean's doing here.
He thoroughly enjoys what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly.
He's married with 4 kids. You know how many Hollywood directors can say that? I think just him.
It's fair.
What I'm trying to say is, I think the guy leads a pretty balanced life. He's friends with Ryan Reynolds. That can't hurt.
No, and
From what I've seen, it looks like Ryan's a fun guy to be friends with.
I would
he might
think
even end up
so.
in his movies. Who knows? We'll get into that.
I would love that.
So a little bit of context.
Hire me, Ryan.
Right? We like to discuss, hey, when we're talking about a specific movie, what are the other superhero movies that came out in that same year? This is it. This is the one. Because Madam Web doesn't count.
No.
So that doesn't count.
Unless you're my mother.
Doesn't count.
We're not related.
No, you're not.
I was adopted.
Kraven, Joker, and Venom are still out there. They're still to come. I think we can safely say they are on a separate little island that is not in the Deadpool Wolverine world. So this is it, boys and girls. We didn't have context beyond this is the one superhero movie that all of us have become so spoiled over the last decade and a half with superhero movies coming out our yang. This is one. This is a really rare occurrence where the quantity is slim, and boy, did it deliver. Now, let's hit on the cast. As we know, Ryan Reynolds, Wade Wilson, Deadpool. Turns out Hugh Jackman was also in this movie. Did you know that he's Wolverine?
Yes, he also had a lot of twins as well, because there was a lot of different ones.
A lot of Wolvies in this. So that's great. Marina Baccarin as Vanessa. Great to see her. Rob Delaney as Peter. His role just continues to expand. Way to go, Rob. Good on you, buddy. Good on Rob.
The one guy from X-Force that got lines. Again.
That no one expected to live.
And
really incredible.
Yeah.
Really incredible. What a come up for Peter. Good for you, buddy. Emma Corrin as Cassandra Nova. She really committed to the bald head look. Good job, Emma. And Matthew McFadden as Paradox. Those were our 6, I'm going to call them like primary characters as far as the individuals that had quite a bit of screen time and were also not cameoing. They were themselves. in these roles. So that was great. Now, there were a lot of folks in this movie. So there are some that I'm going to just flat out leave out in this recap. I'm going to break them up into 2 additional categories. We have the real cameos, because there were some cameos that were kind of fake cameos. Looking at you, Juggernaut, where yes, you were the Juggernaut from the Fox universe, but you were not Vinnie Jones. So were you Juggernaut? You were, but also not really. So we're going to ignore.
You counted, but you don't count.
Exactly. So we're gonna fixate on those actors and actresses that were legitimately cameoing in their roles. Okay, so we got Jon Favreau as Happy Hogan. Love to see it.
Yeah, did we make the spoiler claim? Kind of.
Oh, there's spoilers for days.
Yes, just so you know.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, I mean, be real. This is going to get spoiled.
I mean, again, it's on you.
Hard.
It's on you. I was just having this realization because you kind of just went right into it. I'm like, 100%. I don't think we gave the spoiler warning.
I just kind of consider it by default anymore. It's going to get spoiled.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm good with it.
I listened to a podcast once where they pre-recorded a disclaimer for spoilers because they would have complaints from people about, oh, you spoiled it. And the pre-recording is one of the podcast hosts yelling at people. Like, you are listening to a recap podcast. There are going to be spoilers.
Right.
So, yeah.
You've had a whole week.
We can change.
Yes, we can change at this point. So if you haven't gone and seen it and then you're deciding to listen to a podcast about
That's on you.
Yeah, shove it.
It's on you.
Shove it.
Yeah.
I have anger to channel today. Mm-hmm. Shove it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, as I go through these and as you channel that anger, I'd love for you to give me on a scale of 1 to 10 your surprise level when you saw these individuals in these roles cameoing. So Jon Favreau.
Well, hold on. Surprise level. Are we going number? Are we going?
Yeah, scale 1 to 10.
Are we going kind of a thing where it's a facial expression?
Screw the 1 to 10. I hate the 1 to 10.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, you can't do a facial expression.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That listen, that can't see your facial expression.
That's true.
But articulate what your facial expression would be. You decide the parameters from the top. Jon Favreau, Happy Hogan. Where were you?
Content.
Content. You were content.
Yes. I was like, oh, there's Happy.
I love seeing Happy.
Yes.
I'm pleased. Every time Happy's in the room, I'm like, this room got better.
I also enjoyed their dynamic together. It was hilarious.
Listen, Jon Favreau is phenomenal, and I don't pretend to have seen everything that Jon Favreau has been in by any stretch of the imagination, but I will tell you that I haven't seen anything with Jon Favreau where I've gone, less of that guy, please. Quite the opposite. More. Like going back to the 90s when he's in Friends.
I was not going to say, I think that might be the first role I saw him in was on Friends.
Right.
And it was his role on that was comedy too.
It's fantastic. Can't get enough of the guy. Okay. Good for you, John. Henry Cavill as Wolverine.
Mind blown.
Awesome.
Mind blown.
Wasn't that great?
Dope. The one thing Man of Steel in a different sense on this one.
Oh boy.
That was awesome.
I enjoyed so much the Deadpool's reaction where he sees him from behind, like, oh yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Just close-ups on the muscles and just the sheer beefiness. Awesome.
Honestly, it makes me want him as Sabretooth more than Wolverine.
Okay.
Because Sabretooth is just kind of like that more like menacing figure. Anyways.
I'm in my stage now of acceptance that he is no longer Superman in the DC world. Yep. So I'm all for, I know I've put up pretty heavy resistance in the past to having Henry as, let's say, Hercules, for example. Britain, just give me Henry. Whatever the role is, as long as it is a recurring role that he's in for the next freaking decade in the MCU, I'm down. So totally agree. That was fantastic. Tyler Mane as Sabretooth. We knew he was going to be in it. Yeah. Spoiled in the trailers. He died real fast.
It was like, oh, cool. They remembered him. That's what it was.
Appreciated that he actually took the time to come back and, go through the hair, makeup, wardrobe, all that stuff. So, Tyler, good on you. I wasn't surprised that you were there because they spoiled it in the trailer. But you know what? That says something that they put you in the trailer, Tyler. They knew that you would excite us.
See, they also talked very highly of him as well. Yes. They're like, we loved work. I think it was Hugh talking about it.
Sure.
And he's like, I loved working with him on the first one, so to have him back and catch up with him was amazing. So, good for you, dude.
So dead so fast, but Tyler,
that's just on you. Is my best. Yeah.
Good for you.
Reaction.
Aaron Stanford as Pyro. We also knew he was going to be there.
I was about to say, you have to give me more context.
I know.
It got there, and that's on me.
It's like, who's Harry Stanford?
Yeah.
I like that they actually gave him some things to do.
Yeah, no, it was... That's my reaction. Yeah. Let's go.
He was great.
He was. You know what? He was great in the original trilogy.
Yes.
So to bring him back for this, excellent.
He slid right back in there like he never left, didn't he?
Yeah, he did exactly what he needed to do.
Pretty incredible. One more, just so we can kind of cluster all these. Hey, we knew they were going to be in the movie because of trailers. Daphne Keane as X-23.
Badass.
I know we weren't surprised, but friggin' glorious. She's so good. And like we talked about after the movie, listen, it's been 7 years since Logan came out.
Yeah.
And she has not aged out of the role. If anything, she has just aged and leveled up into it. It's like more.
I think she aged into it.
Yeah.
I think she's now the prime X-23 age.
Yes.
And yeah, it's awesome.
Wow.
One of my favorite things about this movie is that they're like, hey, she's here to stay. Mm-hmm. And I could not be happier about it.
There's no doubt.
Well done, MCU, on that.
Mm-hmm. And hey, you know what? If the Acolyte gave us one good thing, it gave us Daphne Keane. And what I mean by it gave us Daphne Keane, I mean it gave her work. It kept her around the Disney lot. So it's pretty easy to go, hey, you're already in this Star Wars. Come on over. Hop into this Deadpool Wolverine movie. We'd love to have you. I'm stretching it here, but hey, Daphne Keane, we'll see you in more things. That's great. Okay. Chris Evans as Johnny Storm. And a big shout out to my boy Beans here, who called it from the top rope, sir.
I know.
Wow.
And see, I was watching it the whole time, and they're like, "Oh, it's him." They're like implying it's Captain America. I'm like, "No, it's not." I was
they had me, man.
I was like,
they
"No."
had me.
I was like, "They're gonna."
They had me.
I was like, they're gonna pull the rug. They're gonna pull the rug, and sure enough, they pulled it off.
Wow.
I felt pride on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Prideful. It was beautiful.
You should. It's not bragging if you're right.
I wish he got to show off a little bit more. Like they tanked him, and we had that conversation off camera. I was like, does the Human Torch actually lose to Pyro like that? I don't know, but whatever. We don't. That's getting too detailed in it.
It was just great to have Chris Evans.
It was
good on him
in a different role.
In a very different role. Very. Here's what fooled me. Okay, here's why I. Probably the primary reason why I was not able to anticipate the rug pull. All right. He's got the beard. He only did the beard as Cap. When he was Johnny Storm, clean shaven, short haircut. So the presence of the beard, I think, really just solidified that this is Cap. We're about to see Cap. It was so well done.
I was just like, there's no.
It was incredible. So love that. Love that they brought Chris Evans in. That's fantastic. To continue moving through the list, Jennifer Garner as Elektra.
Pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised by that. She looked good.
And in a role of some significance as well.
No, they did. It worked.
Yeah.
It was not one that I was like, oh, yeah, they're going to pull her. I understand why they did. I think her and Ryan have a good working relationship. Sure. But I was like, okay.
She can get it. Yep. Jennifer Garner as Elektra. Dude, here's the deal. When I was growing up, I'm not sure there was a more gorgeous action actress than Jennifer Garner. She has aged well. I will say that.
She did. No. She looked very good in this movie. Yeah. I will give you that.
Ben Affleck, you're a stupid person. That's all I'll say on that front.
I mean, that was kind of
stupid. Really stupid person.
That's kind of obvious.
I know. Well, now it's even much more painfully obvious as he gets fat and terrible and she doesn't. So good on you, Miss Garner. Well done. Channing Tatum has Gambit.
Stupidly beautiful. That's what I'll say. Stupidly beautiful.
I couldn't have guessed that if you gave me a million guesses.
Not in hell. No way in hell did I think that was happening. It's like, no.
Incredible. And I love, and we'll get into some nuance here. We're going to keep moving through the list, but I just love how much like he both did the Cajun accent and they made fun of it actively while it was happening. You're like, I have no idea what you just said. Does anybody know what he said? Do we have an interpreter here?
And here's the funniest part. I still want the Cajun accent. Like, when we get the actual Gambit moving forward, I want the Cajun accent, for the love of God. Maybe toned down a little bit, but I definitely want it.
Oh. Really incredible. Really incredible. And can I just say, it's not bad that we haven't had a solo Gambit movie.
No, it's not.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing. So, only small tragedy is, we'd love to see Channing Tatum. I think he's fine in that role. We'll get into that later. But
Channing Tatum's a good actor.
Yeah.
Not a Gambit.
Yeah, but he's not a Gambit, and no, we don't need a solo Gambit movie. That's one that it's okay that ended up on the Ed Heath. Wesley friggin' Snipes as Blade. I'm still blown away.
Yeah, that's another mind blow.
And guesses. I'm not going to get that.
That's another mind blow because, you're like, do him and Ryan like each other?
Right, for all the reasons. No, they don't. First of all,
well, they didn't. They must have made it work.
A check of certain sums of dollars must have persuaded some measure of friendship. He hasn't been in anything of note in years. He has burned all the bridges that he's had in Hollywood.
Talk about putting your ego aside.
Whoops.
For the both of them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. I'm just so delighted that he was in the movie and, again, given a chance to flex a little bit. That was incredible. Still can't believe it.
He looked good.
He did.
For the most part.
Yep.
I think they should have stuck with the shorter hair for him personally. But other than that, no, he looked good, man. It was nice to see Blade after watching the Blade trilogy. It paid off if you think about it.
Isn't that incredible?
It's kind of crazy how that goes full circle.
Here's the only thing that I now wish that we would have had is, like, somehow if they would have worked, or if Ryan would have figured out how to have his character from Blade Trinity.
That's what I was saying.
Right? Like, have Hannibal be in it.
Because when Blade comes in, and then they're waiting on the next person, it's like, how funny it would be if it was Ryan as Hannibal. I was like, this is too good. And then it was Channing Tatum, like, that's even more weird. No, I was like, oh, Ryan's going to cameo as his character from that, and then immediately die.
Oh, that would have been absolutely awesome. So a slight missed opportunity, but we digress. Real quick here, a couple more throw-ins on the, again, real people playing their real roles. Wunmi Mosaka is Hunter B-15. Great pull from the Loki show. And then Rob McElhenney was a TVA Minuteman that definitely got killed.
Oh, he wasn't a Deadpool.
No.
Oh, I thought he was a Deadpool.
No. That's our next category. Additional Deadpools. Blake Lively as Lady Deadpool. Alan Reynolds as Baby Pool. Inez, I think that's how they want to pronounce the name. I'll be honest, when you spell your kid's name I-N-E-Z, I don't know.
Inez would be correct.
Okay, Inez Reynolds as Kid Pool. Paul Mullen as Welsh Pool. Who the heck is Paul Mullen, you may ask? He's a real professional soccer player.
I saw the picture afterwards.
From their Welcome to Wrexham, project between Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds, which has become wildly successful. Nathan Fillion as Head Pool.
Honestly, I wish we would have gotten more of that. That's an actually surprisingly good combo.
Yeah, and then Matthew McConaughey as Cowboy Pool. So,
which is also hilarious.
Also incredible. So, wow. Lots of folks in the movie. There's the cast. Riles, let's get into the nitty-gritty. What you love, about this movie? I think there's a lot to love here.
Everything. I honestly, one thing that Ryan has done so well with these three Deadpool movies, the soundtrack. I know this is an odd way to start this conversation, but the soundtrack for this was amazing.
Right.
Like, it was just perfect. Like, every song when it was thrown in there, it fit well, and it wasn't, like, overbearing. Like, even when they're holding hands, keeping the generator alive, and the whole shirt pops out, and they're playing Madonna in the background, it works.
It does.
It works, and I think it's...
on a couple levels. Like, it's both hilarious, and it fits.
And I think, on top of that, too, I think it goes with Deadpool as a character. Because in a way, it feels like he's playing the music when the scene is happening, if that makes any sense at all.
He's choosing, like, here's the music that I, Deadpool, would choose as the soundtrack of this scene.
Because Even's like, yeah, well, there's nothing Wolverine and Deadpool can't do without Madonna playing. Like, he mentions it. So, for me, like, the soundtrack is always fire. It doesn't matter. Like, every Deadpool movie has an opening sequence to a song. This one was In Sync, Bye Bye Bye. Phenomenal. Phenomenal. I will never, like, that song will always be associated with that fight scene for the rest of my life. Yeah, no. And then we will transition from that to the fight scenes. I don't think there was a bad fight scene in this movie. All the fight scenes were beautiful. Talk about not only beautiful, creative.
Yes.
Having him fight with Wolverine's adamantium bones, brilliant. And the way they decimated people, brilliant.
It's just incredible.
And then having him put on the Wolverine claws and have them pop out, fantastic. And that was the opening fight scene. Like that fight. Oh my gosh. That fight scene's amazing.
Yeah.
And so to have that and like we have the transitional fight scene with them killing all of the Deadpools. And then that whole transition is perfect. And I think it's got to be at least 3 minutes long.
Oh my gosh.
It was a good, long, beautiful moving camera on it.
Yeah. The action is so good. So creative.
I mean, and then, not even talking about Deadpool and Wolverine, when you have the raid on the Ant-Man skull, and you have the characters that are not going to be with us very long, in theory, right?
Right. Yep.
X-23 shines, destroys Juggernaut by slitting his ankles, making him slide off his ankles, and then cutting off his head. Insane. Blade looked fantastic. Elektra looked fantastic. And love or hate Channing Tatum's Gambit, they made Gambit's moveset phenomenal to the point where I'm like, give me Gambit immediately.
Right.
Gambit needs to be in the next X-Men movie.
Right.
No matter what.
Wow.
Incredible.
Fun dude to watch fight. Yeah.
I honestly, I forgot he was Channing Tatum at one point. That's because I just get lost in the moves. He had the bow staff. He had the freaking bow staff. Phenomenal.
Correct.
So I think the villains were great, right?
That was a topic for us on the preview pod was, hey, is there a villain that we haven't been revealed to yet? In a certain sense, yes, we won't go too far down that path, but totally agree. We had a couple of very worthwhile adversaries, no doubt.
Yes, and one is being Cassandra Nova. I think she was the right amount of crazy.
There's no doubt.
Like, and having that like interaction with her and Wolverine, even like Wolverine about to like kill her, and he's like, "I'm not going to kill you because that's not what Charles would want," which is like straight to the heart. And then you think she has that change of heart as well, and then she's like,
"Now I've changed my mind again."
Yeah, exactly. So I thought she was great. And then that what was his name? The Paradox. Yes, I knew it was time related. I was going to say Prometheus, and I knew that was wrong.
Good guess though.
And would see?
Yes.
He was like that perfect, like snively guy that you just wanted to see get his ass kicked.
Correct.
So it was great to actually have him like lose. So to have that and like to see that, not all of the TVA is on the same page and they still have some work to do on that.
Right.
But and I know this doesn't like add a super ton to the rest of the MCU, but honest to God, I think it's kind of a relief to have a break from like always trying to continue things together. Yeah. I think once in a while it's nice to just have this like movie that kind of just sits on its own, and they still added a little bit to the overall multiverse saga in the sense of like, okay, there's this new concept with anchor beams.
Correct.
And worlds are still dying technically, and Paradox's whole thing is, well, I want to speed up that process because you guys are screwed anyways and there's no way around it. So instead of letting you die, I just want to...
It's inefficient. Let's get there faster.
Yeah, let's just finish it now.
Yeah.
So, but that's where I'm at. The humor all the way through. It's definitely better than Deadpool 2. I have to watch that Deadpool Wolverine again to compare it to the original to see which one's funnier. But I mean, it's right on board. So
Yeah.
I've had this discussion before too. I think Deadpool with this installment,
right.
I think it makes a very good case to be one of, if not the best superhero trilogy we've had.
Yeah, it's
and that might be a hot take.
Well, it's such a different flavor. I haven't even thought of that context.
And when it comes to comic accuracy, I think it is number one.
Yeah, I think
comic book accuracy, not like quality, but like when it comes to like ripping a character right out of the comics.
That's what I was going to say. Like, it's so on brand with the character from start to finish. And you have 3 movies that work well, both independently and with one another, right? Like, there's no weak movies in that trilogy. Like Deadpool 2, it's, for some reason, it's easier to pick at it in the sense of saying, oh, it wasn't quite as good as the first one, but it wasn't a bad movie. It was a good movie. I couldn't even sit here and tell you, like, I wouldn't say, yeah, I think it's just that simple. It's not a bad movie. Deadpool 1 was just exceptional. Deadpool 2 was really good.
I think Deadpool 2 builds off of the original one by bringing in more characters and actually taking some of the attention off of Wade and putting it on Cable and Domino and making Juggernaut exactly what he always should have been.
Correct.
So Deadpool 2 definitely is not, like, when I say Deadpool 2 is probably the weakest of the 3, it's
relative.
It's not like, oh, it sucks. It is up there with them still. It's just my order. It's probably third.
Yeah, I get that. No, that's so many positives, Riles. I mean, I haven't laughed that hard during a movie from start to finish in a very long time.
I think
so funny.
I think for me it was since Deadpool 1.
I would believe it. It was so funny, and appropriately so, which is, yes, ironic to say appropriate in regards to the humor, because it's a lot of inappropriate humor. What I mean is, so often humor can interrupt and interfere with what should be a more grave or serious or somber moment. It's almost like the movie maker doesn't trust that the audience can take the tension. It's like, this is a little awkward. Let's make a joke. And that's not what this movie is. This movie is just one big joke with a little bit of gravity mixed in. And so it fits so doggone well, because nothing is off limits to be made fun of, including Deadpool himself. And so it doesn't pull you out from the distraction or from the suspension of your disbelief, where you have to consciously think, oh yeah, I'm just watching a movie. The humor is very engrossing because it's, again, just so on brand with the character. And part of what's unique about the character of Deadpool is that because he is this ridiculous and both self-aware and self-deprecating, that it makes it a delight to put just about any other character in there with him. Like, as I think through, this is part of what's, I think, fun about this conversation. I think back not just through this movie, but Deadpool 2 and Deadpool 1. It's like, it doesn't matter what character is sharing the screen with Deadpool. It's a good fit every time. That kind of chameleon-esque ability is extraordinarily rare. Truly. I mean, you think of, there's Colossus, there's Megasonic Teenage Warhead, there's Cable, there's Domino, there's Wolverine. And it all works.
And eventually Thor.
It all works. That's such a fascinating quality of this character. And a lot of it has to do, I'm sure, with how Ryan Reynolds executes the character, but I appreciate just that it leans straight into who the character is out of the comics. So doggone funny. So funny. And you've heard me say this countless times as we've talked through movies and shows. If you're going to be an action movie, you better have worthwhile and creative action. And this movie has it in spades. In spades, man. Like, it just, the creativity, there's not a lazy action scene where it's just seen that before. It's unique action sequence time after time. And a lot of that, and this is again where action movies can struggle, has to do with are we invested in these characters, or are we just watching colorful explosions on the screen? Something this movie does, I think, exceptionally well, and it's not cheating, but it's using characters like Wolverine, like X-23, all the characters we just mentioned. There's some kind of prior emotional equity that's been built up, and it's cashing in on that. And that's smart. That's not cheating. That's just smart, solid storytelling. Good grief, man. When Wolverine pulls on the mask, I think I just about exploded.
It was beautiful.
Oh my gosh. Goosebumps from toes to dome.
I was
just incredible.
I was so worried it was going to look cheesy.
And it looked awesome.
And it looked perfect.
It looked freaking awesome.
And I said this to you. I said, I think more superhero movies need to lean into the white eyes on the masks.
Yes, agreed.
Because Deadpool has always done it, and it looked good for him, but it also helps with like the animating of his face. Mm-hmm. With Wolverine, it looked fantastic on Wolverine too, to the point where I'm like, this is so common. It's so common in the comics.
Yeah.
It's always that way. Mm-hmm. So to finally have it and be like, no, actually that makes sense and it looks good.
Better.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
totally agree.
100%.
Yeah. Totally agree. That scene was incredible. You talked about the one shot where Wolverine and Deadpool are slicing through the whole Deadpool crew. It was so good, and where the version of Deadpool where it's essentially unmasked Deadpool, and it's Ryan as a hippie, and he doesn't have a healing factor, and he's just slowly and painfully dying. That it's just perfect. Just perfect. It's hilarious. It's a little gross. There's action and violence mixed in. It just, what a unique pot of chili that this movie is and this character is.
Well, and I think another thing, too, to think about that I think is actually really amazing that it made it in is they critiqued the past of what they've already done, and they know it's not good. And the fact that they got permission to do it says a lot about where we are now, because maybe the quality is going to go back to what it was. Maybe all the stuff that they tried is actually go back to what it was. Yeah. And that's... I'm excited DC's coming out with Superman. Marvel can use the competition, makes everybody better.
Correct.
I have hope.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we'll get into this a little bit later, but we had talked about this again in our preview pod of this is such a unique coalescence of timing where when Deadpool 2 came out, Marvel was at the peak of its powers. No way would we have guessed that, hey, Deadpool's going to be in the MCU. They felt just multiverses apart, right? 5-6 short years later, here we are, and this is actually the perfect fit for Marvel to endure some self-deprecating humor at its own expense, just to demonstrate some self-awareness.
It needed it.
Right? Like the scene where he's talking to Wolverine, he's like, you're coming in at a bit of a low point.
Oh, so funny.
Oh my goodness. Flop after flop.
Well, it's good that they know, because they're confirming what the fans are feeling, and they're like, hey, we hear you. Yeah. We know this hasn't been a good string.
Correct. And along with that, to branch off of that, something else I thought that this movie did so well is it did lean into what is easily the strongest production that has come out of the world, the characters that have come out of Phase 4, which is the Loki series. So much of this movie was based in the void, revolved around Alioth, the TVA, and it added to the mechanisms of the TVA, which you mentioned already, with anchor beings in a way that, hey, that makes sense. Not just in the, like, for the sake of this movie, like it wasn't just a plot device. That's actually an added layer to the TVA that will be relevant and can be relevant moving forward. That's also impressive, but wise to lean into, if you're going to wrap into the MCU, lean into the strongest piece that you've had recently, and by far, it's Loki. And also kind of ballsy, because I would imagine, I don't know, but I would imagine that there has been a decent number of people that went to see this Deadpool and Wolverine movie that have not also watched the Loki show, seasons 1 and 2. Would be my guess.
Probably.
But still works.
And they probably, if anything, they're like, oh, I kind of want to know more about the TVA.
Yes.
So they'll go watch Loki.
There is no doubt. Okay. A couple other things on the positive side, and we're going to get a little bit more broad here.
Okay.
Something that we've discussed, again, prior to hitting recording, is that I was impressed, and I think you were also, and you mentioned this, how much this movie showed restraint, right? Because we were going into it thinking that it was going to significantly impact the MCU, and at least directly, it did not do that. Now, time may tell certain characters that we saw in this movie, but as far as resetting or altering what has come or what has happened, we didn't get that. It stayed very self-contained. It focused on its own story rather than, other than poking fun at the MCU and providing that necessary self-deprecation and self-awareness. It didn't go big.
No, and if you stayed for the end credits and you watched like all the behind the scenes footage from all the other Fox movies, you realize that this movie was kind of a love letter to the Fox universe, ups and downs. Like that's what it was. It wasn't trying to present it as this was gold and we threw it away. There were plenty of misses. Right. No, they gave credit to, they showed stuff from Fantastic Four. They showed stuff from Elektra. I've still never seen that movie. I never will. Blade, Daredevil, all those movies. And I don't know if was Daredevil Fox? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, very much so to have all of that, like in a way, it was cool that they kind of honored all of it. I mean, that's why Channing was in there too. Yes. They showed the big Vanity Fair picture or whatever of all of them during the Age of Apocalypse movie. Right. So, yeah, no, it's in that way it works really well, and so they kept it contained to them. Yeah. Yeah, and again, we're not trying to go back and alter history, and I think it's so much fun that we took the time to go through those X-Men movies prior to this movie. I think that was one of the few good choices we'll ever make in our lives. But part of where I'm going with this is, listen, it's not revisionist history. Some of those movies weren't very good, right? There were some struggles. But what did exist, even in those movies that were rough as a whole, is that there were individual characters that were really solid and really outstanding and really worthwhile. And as we sit here frustrated in a lot of ways with how the last several years has gone with the MCU, and we'll get into this, again, I keep saying this, but I mean it, we'll get into this a little bit later, there's some genuine nuggets as far as good characters that can be pulled out of this mess and brought into the future story, and we're still going to have a lot of fun moving forward. So it's not all doom and gloom, but I agree with you. I really like that that Deadpool and Wolverine, rather than trying to reset the MCU, instead was just trying to do an honor, if you will, do a service to the Fox universe for all of its, its positives and its warts. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool to see. Yeah. Okay. A lot of positives. Anything that was, from your perspective, you're going, I don't understand why they did that, or questions or negatives or critiques coming out of this one, Riles? I think outside of the Human Torch pyro thing, honestly, no. But I'm also biased as hell. So Ryan could have went on there and did the whole NSYNC thing the entire movie, and I've been like, this is amazing. So I'm definitely biased. I guess the only, and this is kind of like contradicting myself from earlier, we don't really know where they're going next after this. Yes. So it's kind of implied that Wolverine and Deadpool are going to be working with the TVA to help save these dying universes that lost their anchor being. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if that's how that plays into the 616, because Iron Man died, or maybe Old Man Cap dies in Captain America 4 and he was the anchor being. Sure. I'm curious to see how that comes into play for the original 616, right? Mm-hmm. I'm assuming with this information, Deadpool and Wolverine will be leading the charge as a group against Doom. Yep. In the future Avengers movies. Right. So I'll be interested to see what team they concoct. Maybe they are Team Fox. And you know what I mean?
Incredible.
So it's all like, it's him, Logan, X-23, Colossus, the rest of the X-Force, right?
Right. Peter's there.
Right. Cable would be perfect for that, right? Yeah. So I'm wondering if that will be one team. It's just Team Fox, Team Earth 10,006.
Right.
I think they said that Kelsey Grammer's Beast, and when that Spectrum made the switch over, I'm pretty sure they were saying that was the same Earth.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure. So
I thought about that for a while.
Crazy. But so, we could have that.
We just don't know. We don't know where it's going.
We don't.
And the door is open for it to go. Here's the thing. Here's how wide open it is. They could just be done with Deadpool and Wolverine, both as characters, if they wanted to. They're not going to be. No, I'm not suggesting that they should or will be.
My fist was going to make contact with your jaw. I swear.
We're done.
I had to calm down. I'm breathing. We're good.
They should. They could. They're not going to. They could. And it could also go wildly in a different direction where it's like, hey, every time there's an Avengers movie, these guys are going to be in it. So it's wide open. Wide freaking open. Okay. Anything else from the Deadpool and Wolverine recap, my man, do you want to hit on?
No. Did you have any negatives that you wanted to discuss?
The only thing that I was trying to figure out was how we saw Deadpool meet with Happy Hogan in 616 and then go back to his 10,005. I think we're supposed to think that it was the watch, like Cable's.
I'm pretty sure that's what it's supposed to be.
Which is fine. I wish they just would have been a little more explicit with that, because I found early in the movie, I just found that a little distracting because I was just trying to think through it. Like, wait, it said 616. Now he's in 10,005. Did it show how that happened? Did I miss that? And maybe what they did. And I was just too whatever to not pick up on it. Happy Hogan definitely referenced, didn't he? Like the watch that Deadpool was wearing?
Yeah, maybe.
Right?
And if you think,
or maybe it was the TVA, maybe it was Paradox.
If you also think about it too, like go back to like an Endgame when they're hopping timelines.
Yep.
Because technically, when they hop a timeline, it's a branch timeline.
Correct.
So maybe
you're not actually going back in time.
Right. So maybe because they're in the branch timeline, when he goes back in time, it takes him to the original timeline instead of, a different one. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that would make somewhat sense, but right. It's definitely a reach a little bit. I understand what you mean.
Yep. But no, that was the only mechanical question that I had. Again, going into the movie, we thought or hoped or whatever that, hey, this is going to fix the MCU. I mean, even in the trailers, I am Marvel Jesus. And in this movie, it plays with that a little bit. But I think both in the moment and upon reflection, I'm really content that it restrained itself and try and go down that path.
Well, and they even imply too, like Deadpool is important moving forward. Like they said it multiple times. Paradox is like, I don't know.
He was very frustrated by it.
He's like, I don't know why. I don't know why they want you, but like you're apparently important in the future.
Yeah.
And so that gives me so much faith. Like I cannot wait for him to just come on screen again. It'll be great.
Oh my god.
It'll be great because it will be Avengers 5.
Yeah.
I am determined that it will be Doomsday.
Yeah.
And it'll be great.
Yeah.
So, no, I got nothing left on that one.
Okay. Love it. Love it. Good things. Well, what a great flick. Worth the wait. Long wait though it was. What a phenomenal payoff. All right. Let's get into some news, folks, and a uniquely rich list of news items we have to get to. A banquet, if you will, coming straight out of the San Diego Comic-Con, which took place the weekend of this great film's release. So no coinky-dink there. We're going to lean heavily on the Marvel side. DC was pretty light with the news. We'll talk a little bit about the Penguin trailer. But before we get that far, we're going to take some sweet time here in the Marvel world, because there's exciting things happening. Captain America, Brave New World, coming out February 14th, 2025. We've had a trailer out for a couple weeks now. We haven't had a chance to discuss it on this pod in any real depth or detail. But I think we need to do that now.
Yeah.
Riles.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we get Red Hulk, they show us that pretty big reveal right out of the gate,
which we all knew. So that's one of those cameos, or that one of those reveals that you see and you're like, I'm actually kind of glad that they just showed it already.
Sure, I gotcha.
You know what I mean? We all knew he was coming. McDonald's ruined it. Okay, we knew it was happening eventually.
Which incredible, because it's so far out from the movie and having any of its marketing really ramp up.
Don't even get me started on that.
I know. I took my kids to McDonald's in May, and they had toys for this movie. May of 2024.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But anyways, I will say, like, Harrison Ford's gonna have he has the perfect face for a Hulk.
There's a lot of truth in that. He has aged right into Hulk status.
Yes. Yeah. So I am actually genuinely excited to have Harrison Ford in this movie. That grew on me quite a bit after this trailer, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great. Red Hulk's back. We got a glimpse of the new Falcon.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. We got a glimpse of the plot. Ideally, is right. Isaiah Bradley taking a shot at the president.
Whoops.
Crazy.
Whoops.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Giancarlo Esposito.
Mm-hmm.
Or not Despacito, just Esposito. I don't know where I was going with that.
I know what you're talking about.
That was a song, I think. Despacito. Anyways, I digress. It's you wrote in here Winter Soldier vibes.
Yes.
And I think we are getting it.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that show had those vibes.
Very much so.
It was a very good show. The tone was there. It was perfect. So to keep that tone for these Captain America movies, I think is the right call.
Mm-hmm.
So to have it be like this political thriller, they teased tying it,
right.
Finally doing something else with that giant celestial that's stuck in the middle of the earth.
The gift of Eternals.
Yes. So, no, overall, I think I'm more excited after this trailer than I was before it.
Yeah, agreed. I think, without question, it helps that more time has passed since Endgame, since Steve Rogers hung up the shield, right? And so the more that time passes, the more it feels not odd for Sam Wilson to be in the role of Captain America, right? And I really hope that there's not too much time in this movie spent with unwrapping that aspect of his character, because we had that in the TV show.
He already went through it,
right? So we don't need now the movie version of that. Like, he's in the seat. He is Captain America. Great. Let's lean into it. Let's let him be his own Captain America.
But I also love kind of that conversation he has with the president, where he's like, we want you working with us. Because that was kind of the whole plot of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Yep. They're like, we need a Captain America.
Right.
So why don't we do what we did back in the 40s and make it another United States soldier?
Yep.
Right. So to have him be like, I want you with me.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, but what if you're not cool? What if you
suck to work with? What if you're not a good friend?
What if you're a dick? Do I get an out? So, which is on brand.
A bit one-sided.
It's on brand for Captain America's in general anyways.
Yeah.
So, I'm actually very curious to see that dynamic unfold.
This should be a good movie.
I think so.
This really should. The TV show was really solid in the sense that it was a very similar tone and vibe. Again, like Winter Soldier could be the paradigm of what does a Captain America, whether it be movie or show, feel like that. Now, obviously not the same plot start to finish, but just that espionage piece, right? That is 100% what Captain America movies should be. We just got done talking about how on brand Deadpool is and was. That's great. That's the Deadpool character. Now you got the Captain America character. This is what you should lean into on that side. I am going to call my shot right now. Giancarlo Esposito as Sidewinder, the leader of the Serpent Society.
I want to know which one he was. Yeah.
Yep. Listen, they're not actually going to be serpents. They are in the comics. We're not getting serpents in the movie.
Which this is funny.
Just kind of dumb.
It pisses me off.
It's dumb. Like, honestly,
lean into it.
Why not? Like, you have multiple Hulks. You're like, okay, but we can't have giant snakes. Why not? Actually, why not? That's where you're drawing the line here.
Well, and we have at least. Well, and he is at least one of 3 members confirmed, because we have a girl, and we have my boy, Seth freaking Rollins. He better be in this movie. I swear to God, if they cut him, I will riot. But anyways, so you should have at least 3. Seth's going to be such a badass. Anyways,
it'll be terrific.
I digress. Yeah,
I hope I'm wrong, but that's really the feel that I get here. We gotta be realistic. It's like, you have a Hulk in the movie. It's not the real world. No. It's not. No. It's okay. Make it weird. No, in that sense.
I'm just looking him up. Oh yeah, he's an ugly looking dude. Mm-hmm. How funny would that be actually if that's what we got?
Incredible.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
It'll be fascinating to see the marketing kind of roll out here in the next several months. There's obviously a good 6 months, so a solid half year before we get to February 14th in this next Captain America iteration. I'll be curious if there's any bit of U.S. agent, right? John Walker, if we get any appearances from his character in here.
I doubt it. I bet they save him for Thunderbolts.
Yep. I wouldn't mind seeing him a little bit. I'm sure he won't have a major role, but he was such a great character coming out of that show.
Agreed.
But
I think what makes me curious, because, they're bringing Leader back.
Right.
They're bringing.
Right.
I'll be interested to see what other Hulk characters are coming back.
Sure.
Because we haven't seen anyone really for a very long time.
And that's the piece that's really a strange blend here is Captain America and Hulk. That is not a natural pairing. Like you don't get that in comics for really obvious reasons. One is a man, the other is the strongest of all the beings. So why do unique, and don't hear me say I'm criticizing it or calling doubt to the partnership. I'm just saying I'm real curious how they're going to pull this one off.
I am kind of hyped for it. Mm-hmm. I think the way they're going to do it, I think it's going to work.
Yep.
Just the way they built Ross up into the political landscape over the last couple of movies, sure. It's like,
sure,
I see how these two are going to clash.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Like I'm guessing the Leader comes in here to make the Red Hulk. That would be my guess on why he shows up. But what's he been doing for the last 15 years?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He hasn't been in there since literally 2008.
Right. Well, we've got plenty of time between now and then to wildly speculate, and we will.
True.
But let's segue into Thunderbolts. Hey, it's still happening. May 2nd, 2025. The only reason I bring up Thunderbolts is we brought up John Walker, U.S. agent. Yeah. He's going to be in it. That's great.
I'm whelmed.
Winter Soldier, Yelena, Red Guardian.
Ghost, right.
Here's what I'll say about this. I hear all those characters' names and I go, yeah, I'd watch a movie with them in it. I don't know if this movie is going to have a good story.
No.
I don't know. I don't feel optimistic about that. I do enjoy the characters, and that's where I'm at here.
I'm only excited for 3 characters.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at.
US
4.
Oh, 4?
We'll say 4. Bucky.
Yes. U.S. agent.
Yes.
Red Guardian.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Yelena.
Yeah.
Yelena's probably number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Bias, maybe. Yes. Anyways.
Yeah. So, okay. Marvel talked about Thunderbolts. That's great. We don't have any marketing footage yet, why would we? It's a good year away.
Well, they had the panel, though, and I figured maybe they dropped the villain, and they didn't.
Yeah. They kept it pretty close.
It is in the dark. I mean, the Red Guardian showed off his suit for the movie. That was about it. So I was like, okay.
I love it. Okay, Fantastic Four, First Steps. So we got the full title for the movie. Release date of July 7th, 2025, so a little less than a year out. And I thought we got some really worthwhile news notes in regards to this movie. So we found out it's going to be set in an alternate universe in the 1960s. So it kind of answers how is the design working here? How are they doing this in the past? Alternate universe, 1960s. However, don't think of 1960s, our 1960s technologies. Think of 2060s and what that technology is going to look like, except that's their 1960s. Did you ever see the cartoon The Jetsons?
I know of The Jetsons.
That's what this is.
It's going to be like The Jetsons.
Yeah, that's what this is. Not an origin story, so we're not seeing them
go from... with that.
Yep, same. Very much so. And they've got kids. We're going to get the Future Foundation.
I didn't know that part. Mm-hmm. Did you see the image of Galactus?
I did not see that. No. Look good?
Yeah. It looked like Galactus.
Nice.
It did not look like a storm cloud.
Not just a derecho cloud here.
I'm so excited.
Real life thing.
Don't say derecho. That's my trigger word. Anyways. No, dude, it's going to be legit Galactus. Now, see, this is where I get curious. Because if you cast these 4, and it's an alternate universe, are they going to be the main universe Fantastic Four then?
Mm-hmm. Great question.
That seems kind of weird to me.
I think what we can forecast a bit here is, I'm going to pull it back to Deadpool and Wolverine, is we're getting characters pulled from whatever sandboxes Kevin Feige wants to pull from.
Okay.
And go, and I'm going to bring you into, and you're going to end up being essentially stuck in 616. I think that's part of what's happening here. That's my forecast for this.
Yeah.
So yes, they are, even though no, that's not where they're starting. And here's what could be kind of fun about that, right? Because the Captain America dynamic, the man out of time, right? He falls asleep in the he gets frozen, capsicled in the 1940s, wakes up in the 2000s. Imagine that, but just with an entire freaking family, right? The whole Fantastic Four. That would be fascinating.
So it just makes me wonder now too, because it's like, okay, so they're establishing a separate universe for them. You have the Fox universe, you have their universe.
Yep.
Is Sony coming into this?
I don't even know.
Are we getting Toby and Andrew again?
Right.
Are we getting Tom Hardy Venom?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, honestly, I'm all for those. The rest, I don't give a shit. But
what's funny is I think they tried to, right? Because they had the end credits scene of Let There Be Carnage, where we thought, oh my gosh, he's in the MCU. And then it was a total rug pull.
Well, in a way, because in a way, they kind of did it already.
Yes.
With Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yes.
So how amazing would it be if we get that whole Morbius pull, Vulture comes to the Sony, and then just for it all to come back to the MCU and Secret Wars. I will say it would be really dope to get like a Sinister Six-esque formed to take on Doom.
Yeah.
I'm kind of okay with that.
Yeah.
But anywho.
I like where obviously the most odd part of all of this when it comes to the Fantastic Four is that they're intentionally not making it very simple, in the sense of the simplest thing to do is to introduce them in the 616. Like, that's the simplest thing for all these characters. Just introduce them in the 616, right? They don't even have to have had been the Fantastic Four for long, if any bit of time. They could have just recently gone through the fantastic change that turns them into these beings. So this is just such a uniquely complex choice.
I know.
That's the only thing that gives me pause, because as far as where we're getting the characters, where we're not getting the origin story, Reed and Sue have kids, the Future Foundation is a fun dynamic. Like, there's a very unique tone. Okay. For as not family friendly as Deadpool is, Fantastic Four is very family friendly at this stage, right? So again, it's just its own flavor, its own brand. So I'm very excited for it, and I will shout it from the rooftops. Read Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four. I hadn't read any Fantastic Four prior to. Banger, absolutely love it, incredible, some of the best stuff I've ever read. And yet I just feel so torn when it comes to this movie, where I want to be really excited for it. I do. And the setting where they're introducing these characters is unique enough where I go, that's interesting. And maybe if it was a standalone Fantastic Four movie, it'd be easier for me to get more excited. But when it's supposed to fit in the MCU and Pedro Pascal is approximately 80 years old, I just don't know.
You know, the more and more I think about it, the more and more I'm like, actually, like, okay, having them in a separate multiverse kind of makes sense.
Yep.
Just in the sense of, with Secret Wars, it's Doom putting all of these like different multiverses together in the battle realm, if that's the route they go, and trying to save it what he can. And if you think about it, we only have before that 2 universes established, maybe 3 if you count Sony. And technically with Sony, there's technically 2 because you have Raimi and you have Andrews, and those are separate.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I guess you do need multiple, but like, where else does it go? So they need more multiverse.
Yeah. I'm going to say this as well. I don't think this is sustainable.
Oh, hell no.
I think they need to, and this is probably part of, and we'll get into this now. So the other news, Robert Downey Jr. is Victor Von Doom. Okay. I'm just going to run through the news real quick, and then we're going to talk about it.
Yep.
The Russos are directing 2 Avengers movies.
Thank God.
And those 2 Avengers movies are Avengers Doomsday, coming out May 1st, 2026, and Avengers Secret Wars the following year, May 7th, 2027. Stephen McFeely is partnering with the Russos again to write both Avengers movies. So we're getting the band back together.
Thank the Lord.
And there is so much to absorb here. First of all, I love the Russos. Love what they've done. Obviously, love what McFeely's done. Not a hot take, but it's just like, yeah, no kidding. They've been fantastic. I don't know how to feel about Robert Downey Jr. coming in as Victor Von Doom. Now, I think it's safe. I think if we read the tea leaves here a little bit and we're going to say, okay, Fantastic Four, alternate universe, I don't think there's any real doubt that this Victor Von Doom is also from an alternative universe to the 616. If I'm wrong, I'm going to get really nervous about what they're doing, because this seems very, again, complicated. Like, Victor Von Doom, why are you having Robert Downey Jr. play Victor Von Doom?
And see, to me, I'm thinking and praying and hoping that he's not actually Victor. It's just Tony Stark down the Doom path.
Yep.
And he's still Tony, but this is Tony if his world fell apart. And now he's doing everything he can to save it, but it's not necessarily the right way. The only thing because I definitely was mixed emotions. I was like, okay, like Robert's back. That's great. Maybe he'll come back and play an alternate version of Iron Man as well in Secret Wars. Who knows?
Sure.
I think the other thing I think about is this could hit harder if Chris Evans was still Captain America. I think it hits harder then. Yeah. Now, you definitely have to bring Tom Holland back as Spider-Man, because that's going to hit probably the hardest if that mask pops off.
Sure.
And he's
with
like,
the relationship that
and
Iron
he
Man
sees
and
Tony.
Yep.
So, because, and it's oddly weird. If you think about it, Deadpool and Wolverine kind of prepped us for this, where same actors playing different roles.
Sure.
And kind of making it work with Chris Evans, Human Torch, and Chris Evans, Captain America. So, but yeah, I'm definitely hesitant. But he needs to be Tony Stark, though. If they come out and it is official and they're like, this is Victor Von Doom, and there's no twists of, hey, this is actually Anthony Stark, but he was adopted by the Dooms or whatever, right? Then I'll be a little annoyed. But I think we all know and agree he's not going to be Doom after this movie. After these movies, he's not going to be Doom.
Right.
They'll set up somebody else.
10 years, Victor Von Doom.
Correct. They'll either bring somebody else in or they'll kill him off and they'll slowly build the next Victor.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm trying not to get too far ahead of myself. Again, it just feels, when we don't know how we have yet arrived at this point, as far as behind closed doors, what are the conversations being had between Kevin Feige, Robert Downey Jr., the Russo brothers? Because as I told you, if this ends up being the Russos pitched this idea to Feige, where they're like, here's our thought. Okay, here's what we want to do. Then I will get on board with that, because then it means that Robert Downey Jr. in this role is directly servicing the story. That's why it's happening. If instead it's some inversion of that, where instead Feige is going, listen, we just got to write RDJ a big fat check. We just got to get him back. We're suffering here. Also, let's hire the Russos. Hey, so guys, guess what? We got Robert back. He said he'll only work with you. Here's the role that he's in. Now you guys have to go make this work. That puts them in a really, really tough spot. And I hope that's not the case. I hope it's their idea. And again, it still doesn't make me feel better about why. It's like, you could cast so many people that would be great as Victor Von Doom, and then you don't have to worry about we got to kill him off, or he's got to be an alternate. That's just so odd to me. Now, I'm going to stay open-handed with this, right? So I'm not judging this from the sense of, I know this is a bad idea, this sucks. I don't know. All I know is, at this moment, this seems very odd. Until we learn more, I'm going to remain probably pretty skeptical on the front.
Yeah. The other thing, too, you think about, it's like, he has been Tony Stark for so long, and everybody is going to go into that theater and be like, I'm sorry, that's Tony.
Yes.
So for me,
yes,
I don't think you can bet on fans just automatically getting behind Robert Downey Jr. being Doom. That's why I think, and I'm almost convinced that is an alternate Tony. It has to be, because that's the only thing that justifies it and makes it work. Because if you think about it, Chris Evans being the Human Torch and Captain America works, because when he took on that Captain America role, nobody was like, oh, dude, that's Human Torch. We're obsessed with him. I mean, I remember being like, oh, they casted the Human. Why is he too? But like, now you think about it, there was enough of a gap, and he was only the Human Torch twice. And the movies were, the first one was good. The second one was forgettable. Correct. So to have him come as a different person at that time,
it wasn't a distraction.
It worked. Nobody's like,
just about anymore.
Human Torch.
Right. Correct.
But when Tony hits, or when Robert Downey, I'm already doing it. When RDJ hits that screen, everybody's be like, that's Tony. Yeah. It's 100% Tony.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
that's where I'm at.
Yep.
It has to be an alternate.
Yep. And I also and we hinted at this just a few minutes ago, this multiverse-ness just isn't sustainable. They can't do it on the movie level. Listen, and I shouldn't even say it that way. Comics can't do it. Comics can't execute it well. And what I mean by that is you've heard me say this so many times. Fictional world, follow your own rules. Comics can't even follow their own rules when it comes to the multiversalness. Sometimes they do, and when they do, it's really sweet. But so often it's just a plot device of, we didn't really want that person to be dead. Come on back. And so I think movies are so much harder to sync up than comics. And if you can't sync up the comic stories, how do you think you're going to be able to sync up your movies and your shows? I'm going to tell you, you're not, because you haven't for the last several years. So at some point you need to, and I'm not saying make all the multiverse go away, but just like we saw the restraint with Deadpool and Wolverine, you need to demonstrate that same restraint when you're Marvel and go, okay, the multiverse is going to be out there, but we're not going Star Trek into unknown frontiers with it. We're just saying this is our prime universe, and we're going to kind of poke, dabble little bits here and there when it's applicable, but it's not going to be our area of focus or emphasis. So they need so badly to close the page. And maybe the only thing that I'm discouraged by, and I just need to choose to be more positive, is that it's going to, by the time we get to Avengers Secret Wars in 2027, that's a long doggone stretch of movies and shows where it's been rough. And hopefully, if there's time between now and then, we'll get some solid flicks. But I'm discouraged that we didn't hear a thing about Blade in terms of any kind of positive updates. Like, for crying out sideways, it's 2024. We should have a Blade movie by now. Shang-Chi, that was a good movie.
Yeah,
that was a good origin movie. I'm not championing it as top 10. No, but as far as relatively all these other origin movies go, that worked. I'll watch more of Shang-Chi, more Kung Fu, absolutely. Spider-Man 4? Crickets. absolute crickets.
That one's going to be a while, I think.
It is, and that's ridiculous. That's piss poor. And I understand there's additional business complications, but I'm so eager just to let's move forward. Hopefully the year 2025 will be an encouraging step in the right direction, because I think we got a chance with Captain America Brave New World. I think we got a chance with Fantastic Four. There's a Thunderbolts movie coming out in the midst of all that. But I don't know. Right now, I'm just glad we got Deadpool and Wolverine, and the rest of it. I would love it. I'd love for it to be good, but I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I'm counting on this being excellent. We'll see. We'll see.
Positively middle ground.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Let's hope the Russos can pull it off. Okay, real quick. So that's the Marvel world. Listen, the Penguin show dropped the trailer.
Yeah, that looks dope.
It does, doesn't it?
That's got some hype to it.
I still can't believe that's Colin Farrell as the Penguin. I've been saying that forever.
I'm super excited for Carmine Falcone's daughter. She looks like a badass.
Yes.
What's her character in the comics?
Sophia.
It is. She doesn't have like a code name.
No. Have you ever read The Long Halloween?
No, but I know about it, and I've watched videos on it.
There you go.
So
great classic comic, Batman comic, obviously. But she's a main factor.
She looks psychotic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, that's accurate. Yeah, I mean that's most Batman villains, but
yeah. Part of what's fascinating here is, and I like this in the show, she's being played by an actress that, physically speaking, is pretty slight of build, like a small person.
She's a good actress.
Okay, she's a great actress. In the comics, Sophia Falcone is huge. All right, like a unit.
Really?
I'm not exaggerating. Like, she is a physical force. And so it's a very different approach to the character. But in this context, where you've got like this big hulking penguin character, right? We don't have midget Oswald Cobblepot. You've got kind of beefy, stumbly, brawly Oswald.
Yeah.
I like the juxtaposition of a slight of build Sophia Falcone, where it's like, oh, she shouldn't be much of a problem for the Penguin. And she actually ends up being just a psycho terror in everybody's world. So anyway, Rings of Power real quick. Dropped a 3-minute long trailer for season 2. That season begins here in just a few weeks. August 25th is the date I've got off the top of my dome. I'm looking forward to that. I really am. Season 1 was a delight, so I'm excited for season 2. Thank you, San Diego Comic-Con, for giving me that little nugget of joy. But, Riles, that's what I've got. Anything else you want to hit on before we...
Nope, that's it. The computer's dying. So on that note, God bless.